You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Back from a week's hiatus, episode number 83 of the Show Before the Show podcast from MiLB.com. Hi, everybody. I am Tyler Mon, Sam Dykstra in New York City. It's we're a couple of globetrotters back on this side. It's weird taking a week off.
Yeah, for sure. How was your trip?
It was good. Good.
You got to watch some baseball.
Yeah, got to see a bunch
Mexico.
of baseball. Did the Arizona Fall League thing first, and that was where our last episode was from a couple of weeks ago. And then got to go to Monterrey and Saltillo, Mexico for the Under 23 Baseball World Cup, which was really cool. Got to see some solid minor league talent there. There were some fun prospects to watch on a bunch of those teams. There's no USA baseball team in that tournament, but still some really fun prospects from Panama, Nicaragua, and Australia, and a bunch of places that sent some really good talent. And you were over on in the old world side and on the other side.
Right, yeah. Back in walking the footsteps of my ancestors. Actually, I got to go to. So I went to Amsterdam for the week. Been there before, wanted to go back. It's been a little longer there. My family is Dutch, in case anybody didn't know where Dykstra comes from. But I got to go to the exact town where my great-grandma and great-grandpa both emigrated from around 1913. So, yeah, that was really neat. It's a small town. It's called Dokkum. It's called Dokkum in Friesland. Which is not part of Holland technically. It's part of the Netherlands, the big country we know as the Netherlands. Holland is a different area, but it's part of Friesland. It's about 12,000 people. Not notable to probably anybody else, but walking around that was really neat and something I'll now kind of treasure forever.
I've never gotten an effective explanation as to why so many people call the Netherlands Holland. Like, I don't know where that confusion started.
Well, it's because Holland is its own region. It's
right.
Like calling something like New England. But Holland is where most of the country is. It's where Amsterdam is. It's where Rotterdam is. I think 80% of the population lives in Holland.
And some Holland coast bias.
Yeah, so it's just everybody, the most of the fans for the soccer team, most of the people who live there, they think of where they live. It's Holland. Well, it's actually the Netherlands. And the Netherlands used to include Belgium, but I learned this in a museum, there was a fight over religion, so Belgium became like the Catholic area of the Netherlands and all this kind of stuff. So it's just kind of funny how that all kind of morphed and to walk around it. I highly recommend it if anybody ever gets the chance, especially if you're Dutch.
And it is the officially, at least in baseball conversation, it is the Kingdom of the Netherlands. That's what they actually compete under. So now you can tell your friends how smart you are. Not only do you know the difference between Holland and the Netherlands, but now you also know they compete internationally in sports as the Kingdom of the Netherlands. So there, you can take that to your latest bar trivia night or something. So hey, episode number 83, the Show Before the Show podcast. Let's get things started here momentarily. We will dive into Three Strikes. Before we do that, though, you can find this podcast wherever you find all of your favorite podcasts. We're on iTunes, we're on the Stitcher app, and we are at MiLB.com/podcast. If you do find us through one of those services, go ahead and give us a rating and a review and a subscription, and we would very much appreciate it. We are, I think, still a perfect 5 stars on iTunes, which is very exciting. And also, you guys have low standards. No, just kidding.
No. But one thing I do want to point out,
we
always say this every week. It was like, oh, please, rate, review, and subscribe us. But really, like, if you subscribe, I saw one podcast I listened to, they spun it this way, and I kind of like it. If you subscribe to us, our podcasts just appear automatically. Like,
yeah,
it sounds like okay, that's what, but no, really, like, it's very convenient. You'll just look at your phone and just be like, oh, hey, Sam and Tyler are now in my phone, isn't that?
Yeah, you never miss anything.
Yeah, and also if you rate us, review, give us a review, all that kind of stuff, it helps spread the word about the podcast. We'll come up more when people just type in baseball, never mind minor league baseball. So yeah, if you like what you hear, please spread the word, manually. Tell your friends. That's always great. Tweet about us, whatever. But if you could rate and review us, that helps spread the word as well. So we're always, welcoming to all new listeners. We'd love to hear your input, and always feel free to reach out to us on Twitter and just open up those lines of communication.
So, with that, let's get things started on Three Strikes for this week's edition of the show. And we are going to go on the old MiLBY Roundup Trail. We rolled out the 2016 Best of Minor League Baseball Yearly Awards, the MiLBYs, over the last couple of weeks. Best Offensive Player, Best Starting Pitcher, Best Relief Pitcher, Breakout Prospect, Best System, Best Performance, Promotion of the Year, Photo of the Year, Best Game, Best Play, Best Home Run, Best Blooper, Best Team, all of them. Sam, some of your favorites. What were you taking away from the 2016 MiLBYs?
Yeah, so the one I wrote, I guess it's the one I'm most knowledgeable in, is Breakout Prospect. I got to write up that one. Our staff choice was Eloy Jimenez, which just makes for a lot of fun. That particular category is just a lot of fun to write about because you get to tell the story of somebody, how they became a breakout person, not just here's why they did really well, although there's always fun stories to tell in those ones as well. But for Eloy Jimenez, he was a guy, just got multi-million-dollar contract, or not signing bonus from the Cubs a couple of years ago, coming out of Dominican Republic, really highly sought after. But his first couple of years, in short season ball, never really quite panned out, wasn't looking that great, but the Cubs always were high on him because they were like, listen, this guy's 6'4". We know he'll grow into some potential here. He's not striking out as much as you would expect, especially in today's day and age when it seems like anybody big, if they're going to have any sort of power, they're going to strike out at least 25% of the time. He didn't have those quite strikeout numbers, so he was making good contact, just not consistently as they would have hoped. But they always knew he could grow into something, and this was the year he finally did it. He's 19 years old. Was the Midwest League MVP, was the Midwest League All-Star Game MVP, was a Futures Game participant, could have been the MVP of that game after he hit a home run, made a really nice play in right field. He's played mostly left. He can play a little bit of a right. They know, they think that he can be either corner outfield position. Guy who hit 329 at the plate this year, 14 homers, 40 doubles, 8 stolen bases. So he kind of grew into the whole package. Now, what's the next step? I mean, sometimes with these breakout prospect guys, we talk about, okay, the next step is the majors. Jimenez isn't there yet. He's only played at South Bend for most of this year, got a late call up to Myrtle Beach in time for the playoffs, is getting tested at the AFL right now, doing pretty well. But this is his breakout year. Now, how can he kind of build on it? He's definitely a top 50 prospect, if not top 25 overall prospect. And the Cubs, think he will continue to do it. This is just the foundation. They think he'll go on and build on top of that. So that was a lot of fun to write about. But the interesting thing about these MiLBYs too is not only do we get a vote, and, we write up our side, but we also have the fan vote, obviously, and the fans overwhelmingly for that category chose Mitch Keller in the Pirates system, a guy who actually, appeared on this very podcast. If you're a Pirates fan, go back and listen to that. It was a really good interview with Mitch talking about how he was coming off missing most of 2015 with a forearm strain and a couple injuries, to this year having a 2.35 ERA, 138 strikeouts, and only 19 walks. So, another guy highly sought after, not highly sought after, but a second round pick, pretty well established. Saw himself trail off and then just was completely healthy this year. We got to see what he was able to do. So that breakout prospect category, not just because I write about it, but it is a very interesting one just to see where guys started and who we think more highly of at the end of the year. Tyler, I know you had pitcher of the year, which I don't think we talked about, starting pitcher of the year, which I thought was a fun winner on the staff side at the very least.
Yeah. Brock Stewart of the Los Angeles Dodgers organization. I got a chance to catch up with Brock and talk about his crazy 2016 season in which he climbed in the California League to start the year, through the Texas League, through the Pacific Coast League, made it all the way to Dodger Stadium. And obviously there was a lot of tumult all year long with the Dodgers and injuries and that type of stuff. But Brock Stewart, it was really cool to get a chance to talk to Brock. This season, I asked him, my first question to him was, how do you explain this? And he said, quote, every reporter or beat writer has asked me the same question, and I try to explain it, but I really can't. All I know is it just happened, And that's really sort of the crux of this, I think, for Brock Stewart. But for him, the thing that stands out about 2016 is really just how close these guys are. Even if you're starting at the Class A advanced level, you are a couple of promotions and maybe some injuries, some inconsistencies, whatever it is, from being on that major league mound to being able to make an impact. And, in Brock Stewart's case, he wins 2 huge starts down the stretch for Los Angeles. The Dodgers go on to win the National League West title, and that puts him then in the conversation for a rotation spot, maybe a long relief spot, a swingman spot, something like that in the Dodgers bullpen in 2017 if he's not in the rotation. So just that growth in 1 year comes out of nowhere for a guy like Brock Stewart. And in his combined work in 2016, the numbers are really, really impressive across 3 minor league levels and the major league level. But in 2016, in total at the minor league level, 21 starts, a 9-4 record, a 1.79 ERA. He struck out 129 and walked 19 in 121 innings pitched. Opponents only batted 200 against him. Then he goes off to the major league, struggled in his first couple of outings, but in 7 total appearances, posts a 5.79 ERA. And I think after his first 2 outings, the ERA was somewhere around 2. So just really impressive stuff from Brock Stewart, and a big congratulations to him. On the fan side vote in that category was P.J. Conlon of the New York Mets organization, who's another guy who really sort of didn't necessarily come out of nowhere, but I think came out a lot quicker than people really would have expected him to. He was a 13th round pick in 2015, number 26 prospect in the Mets organization. Had a really good 2015 season, and then I think people didn't really know if that was something that was going to carry over into 2016, and then he was just outstanding. Won 12 of 14 decisions for Class A Columbia and Class A Advanced St. Lucie, a 1.65 ERA in 24 appearances. 23 of those were starts. Really good season for him, and keeps it going from that strong debut season, which is really cool. And then I also got a chance to write about the game of the year, which you can check out at MiLBY.com as well, which was kind of one of those crazy California League games. Lancaster scoring 29 runs on a really wild offensive day, and I talked to Jason Schwartz, the radio guy from the Lancaster Jethawks, about that bizarre night in Lancaster, and so you can check that story out as well. Those are always some good ones to write. The weird, memorable, single moments of a season are always fun ones to write too.
Yeah, for sure. So let's just kind of run through some of the other winners here, just so we're completists here, right? Top offensive player, the staff winner was Dylan Cousins. Shouldn't be really that big of a surprise. No clear real favorite here, but Cousins was just a guy who showed power and speed at Reading. The fan vote was Hunter Renfroe at AAA El Paso, PCL MVP. Starting pitcher we went over. Relief pitcher, Kyle McGrath wins the fan vote for that one. And Jonathan Holder in the Yankee system, a guy who worked his way up from Trenton all the way up to New York, wins for that. Best farm system, Phillies was our pick. A team that not only added number 1 overall pick Mickey Moniak, but had a really good Reading squad, had tons of prospects at Lehigh Valley as well. They win for best farm system. Yankees won the fan vote on that one. Best team, speaking of the Yankees, Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders. Not only won the AAA National Championship, they won both the fan vote and the staff vote. And you can check out all the winners. You go to MiLB.com/MiLBY and check out all our feature stories on the winners over the past couple weeks in case you missed them. In case you get all your news from this podcast, we thank you for that. But please don't forget that we have a website that has all this information ready and available for you 24/7.
You should probably broaden your worldview if you're just getting all your news from this podcast. I mean, I enjoy what we do, but could mix in some other stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Wouldn't be opposed to it. Let's continue. Strike 2 this week, Sam, as we are heading into the final stages of the Arizona Fall League. The Fall Stars game in the AFL is behind us now, honoring the best performers of the 2016 Fall League season. And just kind of some of your thoughts as we get toward these last couple of weeks of Fall League action of where we are right now in the AFL.
Yeah, so actually one thing I want to point out, because it just happened over the weekend, was this Fall Stars game that just looked like it was a lot of fun in like a actually really fun all-star game way. There's a lot of guys coming in, a lot of people rotating in, whatever. But it just sounded like I got to catch up with some of the highlights. Seeing Brent Honeywell, strike out 5 over 2 perfect innings, and then giving the ball to Michael Kopech, who strikes out 3 over 2 innings and is flashing his heat, seems really fun. The guy I kind of want to touch on is the MVP from that game, just because he's such a fascinating prospect for me, is Willie Calhoun. Went 3 for 3 with a homer, 3 RBIs, 2 runs scored. as the starting second baseman for the West squad in that game, which won 12-4. That West squad also featured Honeywell and Kopech, so that just seems like a loaded team. But Calhoun is a guy who's, he's 5'8". He's listed at 187. This guy's a second baseman, fourth round pick out of the Dodgers in 2015 at Yavapai College. So this is really his second season here. He hit 27 home runs this year at a 788 OPS at AA Tulsa. Only struck out 65 times in 503 at bats. So this guy not only has power, he's making lots of contact, which you don't really see that play out that much. Now, mind you, his year last year in 2015, when he was just getting his feet wet, was better. He was hitting 316 at a 909 OPS. We saw that drop off last year. But if he's, doing what he's doing right now in the AFL, which is pretty well, you obviously get acknowledged by sending himself to the Fall Stars game, did really well there. The Dodgers are in that mix for a top 5, maybe even top 10 system, even after some of the graduations they had this year with Corey Seager and Julio Urias. Calhoun's just another really intriguing prospect in that system, right next to Cody Bellinger and Jose De Leon and Alex Verdugo and Yadier Alvarez. I'm going to be really interested to see what happens next year when he goes to AAA Oklahoma City, in all likelihood, obviously. How is his power going to play there? How is he going to do making contact? Are they going to try to get him to make maybe a little less contact and be a little more violent with the swing? He only hit 254 this year. So if he's making lots of contact, but it's a low average like that, tells you it's a little bit of a low bit, but also, maybe he's making weaker contact when he's not crushing the ball. So there's just so many questions, but it's a lot of fun to see him put together a game like that, with his size as a second baseman. So I'm going to look to see how he kind of finishes out the year in the AFL and look to see how that's going forward. But that was just based on one performance over the weekend. Tyler, what about you that's kind of stuck out, through the first couple weeks and with only a couple weeks left in this fall league season?
Yeah, which is kind of crazy. Only a couple weeks left in the fall league season. The Diamondbacks contingent in Salt River has really impressed me so far, and that is a group that, with the way that the Diamondbacks have had such a tumultuous last couple of years, things all of a sudden seem to be really turning around in that organization with the hires that they made at the front office side, on the field staff side. But these prospects are guys that I think the D-backs really want to hit on. Dawa Lugo has looked really good. 15 games he has played so far. 303 average, a 703 OPS. Got started a little bit slowly. He's really come around. But the guy, who we continue to touch on, Jared Miller, 8 appearances in relief, 14 innings, 4 hits, 25 strikeouts, and 2 walks. He's been ridiculous. That is one of the more fascinating storylines of the offseason to me, is the reshaping of that organization, because the D-backs for the last few years have been a dumpster fire and the way that they have operated as an organization. But now, you see there is no more the culture of, well, let's just go out and we'll trade Tuki Toussaint. We'll trade Dansby Swanson. We'll go out and we'll make these bold, brash moves. We'll have uniforms that look insane on the field. It seems now that they've got a more buttoned-up business-like attitude about baseball, and I don't think these two things are connected, but the guys who are right now still playing baseball from that organization are playing in a manner befitting how the offseason has been for that organization. So I'm really impressed with that contingent. That Salt River club actually has a lot of really, really fun prospects on it. Jacoby Jones, who made his major league debut this year in the Detroit Tigers system, he's had a really, really good year. The pitching staff has some really interesting arms on it as well. One of the guys, like I said, who kind of stands out alongside somebody like Jared Miller, Taylor Scott, who has thrown in 7 relief appearances and is a guy who comes a little bit under the radar. But Taylor Scott is a Brewers prospect, and so far through his time, a 0.79 ERA. So there are a lot of storylines, and really, if you comb through every AFL roster, you can find those. But those have definitely stood out to me.
Yeah, and I'm glad you pointed out 2 relievers, just because, we, in this postseason, and we'll touch on that in a second, this Major League postseason, we've seen how much
Exactly.
value teams are going to be putting on relievers going forward. The game has changed as far as that goes, and we're going to see that this offseason when guys like Aroldis Chapman and Kenley Jansen are just going to get massive contracts as free agent elite relievers. So what does that mean for the development level? Are we going to see some of these hard throwing guys, or some of these guys with craftier stuff become relievers earlier? Are they going to be throwing 2-3 innings even when they're in Class A advanced? Is that going to be the kind of development track going forward? This postseason didn't bring up just questions about how the major league game has changed. It all has a trickle down effect. So we're starting to see it a little bit in the fall league of some of these guys just being absolutely dominant, and we'll have to see how that carries. That'll be a storyline going into the spring for sure.
Strike 3 this week, Sam. Since the last time that we spoke, the Chicago Cubs have won a World Series for the first time in 108 years. Not sure if you heard about it. It was a pretty good game. It was a Game 7 against the Cleveland Indians. You can go back.
Breaking news here on the podcast.
I'm sure you can go back and find an archive version of it at MLB TV. But yeah, big news. The Chicago Cubs have won a World Series. For years, we talked about the rising tide in that system and the just glut of talent that was on the way to the major league level. The Cubs still have a lot of talent in that system, but obviously, things look drastically different now because they seem to be settled just about everywhere. But as of now, if you look in that organization, in that system, do you see anybody who could realistically crack into what has become the most impressive young foundation in baseball and be a part of that now going forward from 2016?
Yeah, so I'll have everybody just kind of recall, I think it was 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it was definitely 2 weeks ago. We talked about, I think it was the third strike too, which farm system would you rather have, the Indians or the Cubs? Just in terms of a pure vacuum. And I think we both agree that you'd rather have the Indians system, which was more a compliment to the Cubs because they've kind of graduated so many guys, specifically these last 2 years, that the real top guys are in the majors now. And in that way, this kind of informs this question of, you look at the way the foundation of the Cubs is set, and it seems like everybody's going to kind of be there for a while. They've got a good catcher in Wilson Contreras. They've got a good young infield that's going to be there for a while. Dexter Fowler's now a free agent, so who's going to step up in center field? Albert Almora is no longer a prospect, so we can't really consider him for this question. Jason Hayward, we know, is a long-term contract. Ben Zobrist, is he going to be left? Is he going to be second? What about Javi Baez? Whatever. But it seems like so much of their roster is kind of set in the majors right now. Who is going to kind of crack through? And if you followed my reasoning there, you might notice I didn't really go into pitching. Obviously, they have some really good pitchers between Arrieta and Lester and Hendricks and Lackey and all that kind of thing. But if I was to pick somebody who's probably going to be Chicago Cub, for the good long while, it might be Dylan Cease, the pitcher.
Yeah,
that they took
it's a good pick.
In the 6th round, 2014. He's now a top 100 prospect. Guy just has an absolutely electric fastball, can hit triple digits, no problem. Has had his fair share of injury woes the last couple of years. Went through Tommy John, obviously, but with that kind of just electric fastball, that's going to get you a ticket high up the chain no matter what. Now, is his future in the bullpen, is his future as a starter? We don't really know. He's still only 20. He's going to be turning 21 December 28th. But this year at Class A short season Eugene, 2.22 ERA, 66 strikeouts in 44 2/3 innings. A little bit of a control problem, averaging a little more than 4.5 walks per 9 innings. But if he just continues his development, adds a little bit more, he's got a pretty good curveball, adds a changeup, he could be a really, really good starter that they would make room for. And if I was to pick somebody, I really like Ian Happ, but where is he going to fit in that infield or outfield if they try to give him a spot out there? Eloy Jimenez I really like, but with so much outfield talent that they have right now, are they going to carve out a spot for him? If I had to pick somebody, it would probably be Cease, but don't sleep on those other guys either.
So that'll wrap up this week's edition of Three Strikes for the 83rd episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. Coming up, our guest for this week's episode is the fourth-ranked prospect in the entirety of the Atlanta Braves organization, 2015 first-rounder, 14th overall selection. Kolby Allard will join us fresh off a season with the short season Danville Braves and the Class A full season Rome Braves. Kolby Allard coming up on this week's edition of the Show Before the Show podcast next. Excited to be joined this week as we roll into the middle stages of November by the 2015 first-round draft selection of the Atlanta Braves. Left-hander Kolby Allard joins the show. Kolby, what's going on, man? Welcome to the show. How are you?
Good, man. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. So take us through the 2015 season. First full season in pro ball. Get a little bit of a late start. The Braves protecting the back injury, but go out, do well in the GCL, make that jump to Rome. Looking back on it now, a couple of months removed, how do you evaluate this year?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they took it a little bit slow from the off-season back procedure, which was during the time it was a little bit frustrating, but obviously they had my best interest in mind and obviously the longevity of my career in mind. So looking back at it, it was probably for the best, and obviously the year went pretty well. We obviously won the South Atlantic League Championship, and that was a lot of fun to go through that with all the guys. And personally, I felt like I had a pretty good year. Obviously, there's a lot of things to improve on, but overall, I thought it was a pretty good first full year of professional baseball.
Yeah, and just kind of take us back to those months in April and May. You obviously didn't make your season debut until June 6th. I remember talking to you in spring, and you seemed to be itching to get out there even then. That was March, and you were not starting for 3 months after that. What was it like starting the year and extended, and how much were you trying to push for them to give you a bump at some point?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I was still rehabbing, getting back from that, and they were a little excessively slow with it. But like I said, obviously it was probably for the best. They have my best interest in mind when it comes to that kind of thing. And obviously it's a little bit frustrating, but I was just trying to be patient. And eventually, when they gave me my shot, I was very excited and happy, and it obviously turned out to be a pretty fun year.
Yeah, and take me through those first couple starts with Rome. You get 3 with Rome in June. They send you back down to Danville. You gave up 11 runs in those first 2 starts. What kind of went into those, obviously very early struggles? Looked like you may have figured out in that third game. But what went into the struggles, and what went into the improvements that you found, while you were at Danville in the middle of the season?
I mean, yeah, my first couple starts, they're obviously my first couple starts for quite a few months of being out on the mound, back in a competitive atmosphere. So, I mean, obviously I was shaking off a little bit of rust, but there's no excuses there. Obviously I should have pitched better, and I did, but it was a little bit of almost trying to prove myself. I obviously didn't throw a ton in the GCL the year before, so not too many guys had seen me pitch, and I was just going out there trying to do, honestly, a little too much, trying to maybe overthrow a little bit, and that kind of came into play. But then when I went back to Danville, I kind of just settled down a little bit. I had some talks with some people, and they were just basically telling me to just be who you are. You are who you are, and pitch to your strengths, basically. And that's basically what I did, and that's what helped me kind of turn around and turn 2015 into a successful year for myself, and obviously help my team win.
When you look back at this season as compared with your debut season, there's so many differences between jumping into an organization right out of the draft. I mean, when you get to go through a full year in a system, what is the comfort level like, kind of knowing the facility, knowing training staff, knowing what your routine is going to be, whether it's at the team facility during spring, getting into the summer, or with a club once you're assigned to a minor league affiliate. I mean, how much more comfortable are you now versus maybe at this time in 2015?
Yeah, way more comfortable. It's a very big jump, because I mean, I personally think pitching is very routine oriented, and when you get into that every 5-day thing, you get what you're doing exactly between every start, when your bullpens are, when your lifts are, all that stuff. And whenever you can when you start to get to know the training staff and they get to know you a little bit better, your training and your in between your starts can be a little more personalized. And when that starts happening, I think basically does nothing but help you in going out there every 5 days and throwing the best that you can. So I'd say that's very important, and it's a very big jump to know basically what the familiarity, I guess you could say, is really important, I think.
Let's talk a little bit about the injury. It was a stress reaction in your back. You missed most of your senior season in high school, and then coming into the Braves organization, like you said, the procedure, a slow start to this year just to make sure that you were healthy. Take us through kind of the steps of that injury, the surgery, the recovery, and all that kind of stuff, and how that has affected you, and if you have to do anything different, if there's anything about you as a pitcher that's different, from before the injury to where you are now.
Well, yeah, I missed my senior year because of it, and then I rested a little bit in rehab. I felt great going into the games. I was throwing and stuff, throwing a couple pens here and there, and I felt really good. And then when I got back out, it didn't feel a couple weeks after. It didn't feel like completely right, I'd say. It wasn't like it was terrible, but it just didn't feel right. And then so we kind of sat down with the doctors and some of the Braves guys and basically said we can rest and rehab it, or we can kind of just do the procedure and basically put it in the rear view mirror forever. So we decided to go that route. And then looking back at it, I'm very kind of happy we did, because it's basically in the rear view mirror at this point, and it hasn't given me any trouble, and I doubt it's ever going to give me any trouble again. So, and no, I'm not any different than I was before. Like I said, I'm actually very happy we did it. And now it's basically just all the stuff I used to do. I mean, keep my core strong, keep my legs strong, and basically get after it as best as I can.
And speaking of your time on the mound this season, I don't know if we mentioned your whole stats from the year. You had a 2.9 ERA, 95 strikeouts, and 87 2/3 innings. Obviously, a very good foundation for a first full season. How would you kind of describe yourself as a pitcher now, as opposed to the beginning of the year when you were in extended? How have you kind of changed, once you were on that mound going up against, full season bats, or, rookie level bats, full season bats?
I mean, yeah, you kind of learn a lot more about yourself as a pitcher when you're throwing against older guys and just guys in full season balls rather than high school or all that kind of stuff, or short season stuff. And basically, the biggest thing is, I mean, you kind of learn what you do as a pitcher, your strengths, and basically hone them in and try to perfect them. And when you go out there every day, at least for me, I just go out there every single day trying to pitch to my strengths and know who I am as a pitcher. And basically, I think if you can do that and you can set batters up almost with what your strengths are, that can help you work deep into ball games and help you ultimately have a lot of success. So
let me ask you this then. How would you kind of describe your strengths?
I mean, I think one of my biggest strengths is just the command of my fastball. If I can set up early in the game, dot my fastball to both corners of the plate, I think that kind of sets up everything, if you want my opinion. So I go out there every game trying to just set my fastball up on both corners of the plate. And when you can do that, when you have a well-located fastball and then you can mix in your off-speed stuff, I mean, it's pretty difficult to hit.
Kolby, you mentioned you guys the run through the postseason in the South Atlantic League this year, and it seemed like everybody got on a roll right around the same time, especially pitching-wise for you guys as a staff. What was that like, being a part of that and knowing that the next guy who got the ball handed to him was probably going to do something to either equal or one up the guy from the night before? I mean, that's got to be a really, really fun atmosphere to be a part of, especially on the way to winning a ring.
Yeah, I mean, it was honestly some of the most fun I've had ever on a baseball field. Like, we had every day going out, we just had like a dude going out there, and it's honestly good for all parties. Like that, we pushed ourselves, me, Tukey, Max, Michael, Ricardo. Like we'd all just push ourselves to do better and better every start. And it's when the year went on and we just started to get in that rhythm. It was like every single day, Soroka's going to go out there and shove, like just next man up kind of thing. And when it started rolling, it was fun to watch. It was very special to watch, like, and pitch on that pitching staff along those group of dudes. Like, it was almost felt like the other hitters were not having a very good time, no matter who was on the mound. So it was very fun to be a part of, and hopefully we can keep that staff together for a pretty long time. And
with that staff, can you think of something that you picked up from one of the other guys between Max, Mike, Tukey, some particular pitch, some particular grip, something like that? Is there anything you guys picked up from each other this year that made you better as a staff or individual pitchers?
I mean, I wouldn't say like anything in particular, but it's almost just like when you're around those kind of group of guys every single day, you pick up on little things, you learn little things, maybe the way to attack a hitter, or maybe a little tweak to your changeup, just little stuff like that. When you're around that group of guys and everyone's pushing to get better and pushing to win games, and when you're running down that stretch, it's almost just like it's just a great atmosphere to be in. Like, it's honestly hard to explain like how fun it was to pitch alongside with all those guys and have all the success we did. Because I mean, it was almost like the next man up kind of thing. Like every game you had to go out there and just keep up with your guys, and like you were trying to have such like a fun time with those guys, like on a pitching staff. Like, it was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. It was fun following you guys through that run. That was for sure. If all goes according to plan, you guys are probably going to get bumped up to High A next year, and so we got to get your comments on this. The new High A team for the Atlanta Braves is called the Florida Fire Frogs. So we'd be kind of remiss if we didn't get your thoughts on potentially playing for a new team in a new place like that with a team name like the Fire Frogs. What are your kind of thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's not in my hands. That's in the hands of the front office, who goes where and whatever. But yeah, I would love the opportunity to start the year with the Fire Frogs with all those guys. And I mean, obviously it's a new place, new stadium and all that, but it would be fun to open up, and hopefully we can repeat what we did this year with the Fire Frogs.
He is Kolby Allard, the fourth-ranked prospect in the Atlanta Braves organization. You can find Kolby on Twitter. He is at Kolby Allard. Kolby is the first name for Kolby. And Kolby, congratulations on a great season, and best of luck heading into 2017, staying healthy, having a fun offseason, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you again.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Well, a week away from the old podcast doesn't bring just all on-field baseball news, but a bunch of off-field baseball news as well, as we welcome in Benjamin Hill for this week's edition of our discussion of the business of minor league baseball. There's half a dozen teams out there with new names, new identities. Ben, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing all right. Everything's okay.
Yeah, let's tell ourselves that. There are a bunch of new names, kind of the wackies, but also a couple of names that, we talk so much about the Lynchburg Hillcats. No new name there, but they unveil a new logo, a new color scheme. They'll be sticking with the name Lynchburg Hillcats, and Lynchburg City Stadium, I know, undergoing some renovations and stuff, so kind of a new chapter there. But also Jumbo Shrimp, Rumble Ponies, Fire Frogs, and Wood Ducks, which Wood Ducks is actually a relatively tame sort of name, but run us through these ones with more to come.
Yeah, well, where to begin? All the teams you just mentioned, even including the Hillcats, who have released a new logo, are all Brandiose entities or clients, or Brandiose is a client of these teams, rather. And, that's just a two-man operation at its core, Jason Klein and Casey White. So their aesthetic continues to permeate the minor league landscape. And this week is a week off from the rebranding madness, and that's okay. We're dealing with other forms of madness, and but the last 2 weeks prior to that, it seemed like there was one a day there for a little bit, and we started off with the Florida Fire Frogs, and I do like that one for the alliteration. They are getting some pushback, and perhaps rightfully so, for being a team in the Florida State League that is using the name Florida. Because every single team in that league is Florida, but the alliteration is great. They're in a big market, being out of Orlando, playing in Kissimmee. Kissimmee?
I think it's Kissimmee. I think you said it right. I always say it the first way.
Yeah, I feel like we have this debate constantly. We need somebody to email us from that area and let us know, because
right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I said it differently than I did last time.
So you got it covered one way or the other,
and then still doubted it. Exactly. Kissimmee. I could use a kiss. So. Yeah, that team used to be the Brevard County Manatees. They're now playing at Osceola County Stadium, the former Houston Astros spring training ballpark. That market hasn't seen Florida State League baseball for over 2 decades. So the Fire Frogs it is. And Fire Frogs was a name the team created based on the submission of 2 different fans, one who said the Fireflies, and I can't do that because there's a new team in Columbia that started last year, the Columbia Fireflies. And another fan suggested the Kokies. Coqui, a frog of Puerto Rican origin, And there are actually a large amount of Puerto Rican fans in that market, so they kind of wanted to make a nod to the Kokies, but I guess didn't want to name the team the Kokies. So we have the Fire Frogs, and there we go. It rolls right off the tongue. Florida Fire Frogs. Then we saw the Hillcats' new logo, big and bold, bright, a little fluorescent. They got the kind of greens and blues of a lighter hue, and kind of reminds me of, I think we've talked about this before, but the NBA or NHL expansion team of the 90s. It's big and bold, but there's no doubt that the Hillcats, especially once they decided not to change their name, did need some infusion of something new. So they took the moderate route and at least did the new logos. And then last week we had really the biggest of all of them, and it was a deviation from what we've seen in the typical rebranding name the team context. Usually teams tell fans months in advance, we're going to be renaming our team, and then they collect submissions, and then they release the finalists, and then there's a vote of some kind, and then there's the announcement, and then there's the outrage, and then there's the acceptance, and we see this cycle again and again. But last week, the Jacksonville Suns, who the Suns' name goes back to 1962, bam, they just woke up one day and essentially, I mean, they knew it was coming, but no one else really did. They changed their name to the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp, and that one got a huge reaction in the context of minor league baseball rebrandings. Again, that's a grandiose effort, and the owner of the Jacksonville Suns, Ken Babby, he was the one who took over the Akron Arrows and made them the Akron Rubber Ducks, so he has experience with this. I talked to him the day of the announcement. He was fully prepared to weather the storm that he knew was going to come, and for these teams, it does, all publicity is good publicity, in a sense, and there's a lot of confidence that you might hate it originally or initially, but once you see the logo and see what the team is doing, and especially come to the games and see how it is incorporated in the whole atmosphere, then you might come to like it. You might not, but teams. I keep saying this, but teams wouldn't do these things if they didn't keep working. And then it was almost as an afterthought in the context of the huge Jumbo Shrimp Day. But later that day, we found out that the new team in Kinston, that's one of the new additions to the Carolina League this year. As you recall, 2 teams in the California League shut down. There's 2 new ones correspondingly in the Carolina League. One of those teams is playing in Kinston, but not only are they going by the moniker Down East to represent an area that Kinston's really not a part of, but it's close enough to, and they're trying to draw in fans from this region. They're going with Down East as their geographical signifier and changing their name to the Wood Ducks. So we got the Down East Wood Ducks, and they don't have a logo yet, but at least the team has a name. And when I talked to Wade Howell, the GM, he said, the logo will be forthcoming. I believe it's scheduled for November 30th, but, they're trying to sell season tickets. They're trying to recruit sponsors, and they felt that they could do that in a better fashion by getting the name out there and at least having a name associated with the product as opposed to, the Kinston Professional Baseball Group or whatever they've been calling themselves. And then finally, we had the Binghamton Rumble Ponies. I feel like I'm giving a speech here. But and that was another big one. The Binghamton Mets since 1992 went under new ownership. When new ownership took over, they said, we're staying in Binghamton, which was no guarantee because Binghamton has been last in the Eastern League in attendance for years. And I think as part of their commitment to that, they wanted to brand themselves as something completely unique and say to the community, again, who knows if you'll like this name, but we are here and we're committed to Binghamton. The Rumble Ponies was one of 4 names in the Name the Team contest that referenced Binghamton's status as carousel capital of the world. And I guess, like every minor league town, Binghamton has a fighting spirit. Has there ever been a minor league town that didn't have a fighting spirit?
We're more passive.
Passive. We have a laid-back spirit. That's what our logo represents. You never hear that from anyone ever. But Binghamton's fighting spirit, the carousel cannot contain these ponies. They just rumble right off and go do their own thing, creating havoc throughout the greater Tri-City area.
All right, so we'll give you a little bit of a break after that long speech.
That was impressive, though. That was quite impressive.
When we we take a week off, I guess that's what happens. It's so much, we get caught up on so much from Ben. But I wanted to just go back to this Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp thing. With all these other teams, like you mentioned, they're talking it up for weeks, months in some cases, that, hey, we're going to change the name. Hey, we're going to have a contest for it. Hey, please take submissions and then, vote and all this kind of stuff. And they just came out of nowhere. What is the thought process behind that? Is it just for excitement? Is it just to hit everybody upside the head? Why would they do it that way?
Well, I think it's to concentrate the publicity as opposed to a weeks or months of kind of low-key publicity of, okay, we're changing, okay, we're taking submissions, okay, we're doing X, Y, and Z, to kind of get a concentrated blast. And I think going for that concentrated publicity is also happening in concert with confidence, because Ken Babby has done this before. There are people on the Jacksonville Suns staff who have been through this process before, and I think they knew that they were going to take the initial uproar, the storm, the number of fans, calling it a disgrace and saying they never attend games again. And I think they were prepared to just take that on all at once and deal with a more emotional reaction by just foisting it upon people. And rightfully so. The criticism I saw the most, on social media that day was, too bad the community wasn't asked for its input. And that's, I think, a legitimate criticism to have. And I don't want to discount a fan's reaction to that. And if I was a fan in Jacksonville, and the Jacksonville Suns is what I knew and what I grew up with, and the games I went with my family to when I was a kid, and then I took my own family to, that's a lot to take in, that this comparatively traditional conservative name is now the Jumbo Shrimp, which does feel a little embarrassing if you don't know the context, and maybe even if you do know the context. But again, we see again and again the logo really fitting with a greater attitude that the team is bringing to the ballpark. And when you look at Jacksonville as, especially for AA, a gigantic, tremendous market, they're not drawing particularly well in recent years. So you do have to take the criticism with a grain of salt, saying, maybe it is broke, and that's why we are changing it. And hey, you never know what's going to happen. Maybe the fans will boycott the Jumbo Shrimp and they'll change the name back to the Suns in disgrace. But you know what I guess is that they're going to attract more fans this year than they have for a long time, and that this will overall be seen as a success. That's my bold prognostication.
Well, one thing I wanted to get to, too, with these names in particular, I mean, there's four of them, I guess, including the Fire Frogs. It seems like we're going away from that whole trend of smashing names together. Is that just a thing? Like, is that just a passing phase that happened? Is this just, it happened to be four teams that decided not to do this? Or do you think that's something, it's a little pet project to me. It always kind of perturbed me when teams tried to smash names together, put some capital letters in there. But is there anything behind that now? I
haven't talked to anyone specifically about that. We're still very much seeing the, noun or the adjective noun combination, right. The descriptor followed by animal of some kind combination. But you're right, they're not doing the compound words so much anymore. Your Charleston River Dogs or what have you, where it's one word with a capital letter kind of awkwardly in the middle. Personally, I'm all for that. I know there's a lot of fans who are a little tired of the whole this whole motif of Jumbo Shrimp, Rumble Ponies, Wood Ducks, Fire Frogs, and going back the last couple of years, Rubber Ducks, Blue Wahoos, Iron Pigs. It has definitely been the trend, whether it's a compound word, whether it's two words. I know some fans would just love to see a name like the Suns, one syllable, one word, keep it simple. But until these rebrands don't work, I think we'll keep seeing these patterns, because teams want to do what has a track record of success, and that's the track record we've seen over the last decade.
Ben, let's move along. The promotion of the year was announced as we rolled our way through MiLBYs over the last couple of weeks, and that distinction in 2016 goes to the Bowling Green Hot Rods and Bootlegger Night, which was kind of an alternate history night. We've seen teams do what if nights before, but the Bowling Green Bootleggers really took it to a different level. Your reflections on the MiLBY for promo of the year this year?
Yeah, it's funny. The MiLBY promo of the year came out this previous Tuesday. 2 Tuesdays ago from this week, and that was the same day in which the Jumbo Shrimp were announced and the Wood Ducks name was announced. So, people say, what do you do in the off season? And, sometimes the answer is go insane with stories landing left and right and, not giving me time to do anything else. This is a year-round industry, and I think people can forget that. But the Bowling Green Bootleggers, it's interesting. We've been doing the Promo of the Year award since 2008. The Hot Rods were the first repeat winners, and when they won, which was in 2009, it was for what was literally the first what-if night in minor league baseball when they changed their name to the Cave Shrimp, which, if you recall, back then, Cave Shrimp was one of the finalists in Bowling Green's Name the Team contest, and it was just like, that's crazy, zany. Of course they're not going to do it, and of course they didn't. Now, if there was a Name the Team contest and Cave Shrimp would be on it, I think we'd be like, I think that might win. But it's interesting to think that 8 years ago that was the comic relief in the midst of several other options that were comparatively more conservative. But anyway, Bowling Green set the trend with What If Nights and these one night renaming fests, and they did it again this year, and it won the promotion of the year. Bootleggers Night is a nod to the fact that the hills of Kentucky and nearby Tennessee, we were the bootlegging capital of America. The illicit production and transportation of moonshine, and so let's celebrate illegal drug running for sure at a minor league baseball game. Now I'm giving them a hard time. It was an awesome promotion. Some of the reasons I nominated in the first place, they wore barrel-themed jerseys, like a bourbon barrel. They had a bluegrass band at the ball game. They had moonshine-based cocktails. Fans got a mason jar on the way in. And when I talked to Eric Leach, the GM, he said, this is not going to be a one-time thing for us. This bootlegger's identity is something we're going to keep returning to. It was a huge success, and it was a huge success the moment they announced it, because it got a lot of attention. They announced it last February, months before the season. And one great thing they did is they immediately had merchandise ready to go, including a package that wasn't for local fans. That was a bootlegger's hat and a mason jar. And I think that's something other teams should think about doing when you're doing a one night renaming of this kind, is announce it way in advance and have the merch look good enough that even if you're a fan who's not in Bowling Green or whatever the market may be and can't attend a game, you're still going to want to potentially say, that's such an awesome hat, that's such an awesome aesthetic and design, I'm going to do that. So they were successful right off the gate, even before they had the promotion. And then the fact that they had one of the biggest crowds of the year, great atmosphere at the ballpark, and they're going to keep doing it again. And who wouldn't want to drink about a gallon of moonshine right now?
And I was going to ask, what made you think that this won? I mean, why do you think this won over something like the Prince Tribute or the really popular Kiss Night? Is it just people really, really like booze, and we're kind of in that era of authentic stuff looks cool, like mason jars or bootlegging barrels, that kind of stuff? Or what made this so popular nationally?
When you take things out to a popular vote, sometimes you're shocked by the results. And
full stop.
So I didn't know who was going to win, and I honestly would not have picked the Bootleggers because would have guessed it would be the Bootleggers because
right.
It's not one of the. It was I think maybe the smallest market of the 10 nominees for promo of the year, and El Paso, who did Kiss Night, got a couple retweets from Kiss, the official Twitter page with over 1 million followers. So I really thought that it might go in that direction. So I don't really know why Bowling Green Hot Rods got so many votes. When I asked their GM that, they did promote it a lot on social media. They have a great social media team there. And as I said, it was a promotion that made an impact back in February. So it was one with a high awareness, well outside of Bowling Green proper. I don't really know beyond that, but that's the result we got. Yeah. And, congrats to Bowling Green.
For sure.
Unless it goes to the Electoral College and they actually won in the popular vote, but not. Anyway, award season not entirely wrapped up. The MiLBYs are beyond us, et cetera, but busy awards. Ben, give us a lowdown.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going on vacation. I don't even know where I'm going. But I'm going on vacation tomorrow. Tomorrow. This is Wednesday I'm talking right now. But before I leave, on this otherwise lighthearted and fun day, I am putting together my 3rd annual Busy Awards. That's BIZZY. And I like this because I just create the categories from scratch every year. I choose them arbitrarily. And it's just like a goofy way to come up with, ways to highlight things I saw on the road this season that were certainly the best in their category, even if they were the only thing in their category, and even if I made up the category only in which to highlight it. So I've got things like Best Dressed League President, Best Mascot Triumvirate, Best Food Euphemism for a concession item, et cetera, and putting that together. That'll be out on Thursday. A kind of good recap to my season, which, by the way, I finished all my road trip blogs, put a bow on that, and we've also just migrated to a new blogging platform, so still kind of working out a few kinks on that. So if you go to Ben's Biz blog and it looks different, that's because it is different, and but I think in the long run, it'll hopefully be a better, more interactive platform. So give a little time to get my feet wet on that. But in the meantime, there are a ton of on-the-road posts there. I would love if everyone could get caught up. A fun, distracting read. Anytime you can get to it. Tons of write-ups from many different places. And for me, that means the season is finally mercifully over. Thank you very much for your attention to my travels, to those who paid attention. And if not, Hey, we've all got our own things going on. So.
Never a bad time to start.
Exactly. Thank you.
By the way, the blog address is still the same, bensbiz.mlblogs.com. But yeah, fresh new look and all kinds of good stuff up on there. And Ben, enjoy vacation. Enjoy it, man.
Thank you. I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll come visit you.
Yeah, do it. Do it. I'll be there. We can hang out. We can attempt to solve the world's problems. And also, we'll cast our own votes to see what New Orleans' name is going to be.
Yeah, we will.
Let's do it.
That's going to happen when I'm on vacation. I'm sorry I can't be there in real time to break the news with everyone and have fun Twitter discussions. But November 15th, that's going to be a big one.
We'll do our own Ben impersonations next week. How about that, Tyler?
Please
There we
do
go.
work on
That
those.
works.
Tyler, you got yours down? Can
Yeah,
you
I
do
think I could probably do it.
Go ahead.
I could probably do it. I don't know if I could break it out right now. Like, I feel like I need to perfect it.
Sounds
It's,
like
Yeah. Hey,
Actually,
story of my life.
I don't think it would be very easy. Like you're just a regular dude. It's not like me where you've got some outlandish, stupid Seinfeld-esque high voice that you go into when you start ranting on things. Like I think you're just a normal guy. I think I would just talk relatively normally. I would just need to up my pun game.
Yeah, that's key to the impression.
That'd be
for
it.
sure.
That'd be
It's 60% puns, 40% self-loathing, and voila, there you go. Ben's Biz, the impression. Good to go. Take it
All
on
right,
the
Ben.
road.
We'll talk to you when you get back.
All right, and I actually don't. There's no self-loathing. I love myself, and I love Ben's Biz, and I love exploring America through minor league baseball. And I'm happy to be going on vacation, and I'll be happy to get back and talk to you guys again.
And we love you, buddy.
Yeah, I love you too.
Back from vacation and wrapping up this week's edition of the Show Before the Show podcast. You can find this little minor league baseball podcast of ours on iTunes, on the Stitcher app, wherever you find podcasts. If you are tuned into us on the site, MiLB.com/podcast. We thank you for doing so there. And you can find us a whole bunch of other places as well. Give us a rating and a review and a subscription and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Next week we're nearing the end of the Arizona Fall League season, and then it's into full on off season mode, which is nuts.
Yeah, but we'll definitely have tons to talk about. There's winter meetings coming up, which I'm actually going to be at this year. Went ahead and booked my hotel and that whole thing now, so that's going to be exciting. We'll have tons of stuff for you guys coming down from that, or coming up from that, wherever you are right now. So don't worry, we'll get you through the end of the year, and then we'll be talking pitchers and catchers in no time.
Finally, we'll be talking pitchers. Yeah, I mean, basically 2 months from today, I think teams really start. 3 months from today.
3 months,
I'm good at math. Math.
I was going to say, I saw somebody said 99 days, which
that works.
That sounds nice. Something without triple digits.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice and
And
comfortable.
it feels like spring will arrive once more. So with that, a big thanks to our guest Kolby Allard of the Atlanta Braves this week. Good to get a chance to talk to Kolby, who you can find on Twitter at Kolby Allard, KolbyAllard. Big thanks to Benjamin Hill as well, who is off next week. So we'll catch up with Ben in a couple of weeks. And a big thanks, most of all, to you for tuning in. I'm Tyler Mon. He's Sam Dykstra. We'll talk to you next week.